Now turn to Section 3. Section 3. You will hear Laura, a laboratory technician, talking to Jamie and Denise, two students, about the procedure to get their final year chemistry projects approved. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25.
Pause the recording for 30 seconds.
Now listen and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi there, I'm Laura. I'm the laboratory technician for these chemistry labs, and Professor Mills has asked me to explain the procedure that you'll all have to go through to get your final year projects approved. Most of the procedure involves safety concerns, which we take very seriously. We don't want any uncontrolled explosions, no fires, and definitely no incidences with toxic gases.
You mean like what happened in 2008 when the whole science block had to be evacuated?
Yes, exactly. So you've heard about that already, Denise?
Professor Mills told us about it on the first day of class. It was hilarious.
Yeah, but I reckon some people must have gotten into a lot of trouble.
To be honest, it was mortifyingly embarrassing for the chemistry department, because not only could no one identify what the toxic substance was, but also at the time of the incident no one was actually authorised to be carrying out experiments with any toxic substances whatsoever. Turned out a student had got a bit bored and had decided to do some spontaneous experimentation by mixing up some random powders that were lying around. This is actually incredibly foolish, because there are some extremely dangerous substances in the laboratory stores, and everyone was utterly shocked that someone of college age would do something so childish and irresponsible. And, in effect, this incident was the reason we developed the safety procedure that each of you must now go through before we let you loose in the laboratory to do your final year project. The procedure will force you to be really aware of safety issues, so just in case, at the moment, any of you think it would be a laugh to mix up some colourful substances or light things on fire for no reason, by the time you've worked your way through the procedure, you'll at least pause for a second thought. At least we would hope so.
So, can I ask something?
Yes, Jamie?
So, we're basically being punished because some other student was irresponsible?
Actually, the approval process isn't as bad as that. We can't really call it a punishment. It seems really very long and cumbersome at first, because you'll have to get a lot of different tasks stamped for approval by a lot of different staff members, and I'm sure most of them will have various concerns and suggestions. But my aim today is to break down the process and explain all the different steps to you so that it doesn't seem quite so bad.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30.
Pause the recording for 30 seconds.
Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
All right, let's get started. As I said before, a number of different staff members will be giving you suggestions, and they may not always agree, so just to keep things clear, you should remember that the laboratory supervisor has the final say about whether or not an experiment may be done here in our laboratory. Your professor has the final say whether you can do a particular experiment for your project, provided it's approved by the laboratory, and I've got the final say on how it may be done. So, the first step is that you will fill out this safety assessment form. You will have to have a fairly clear idea of your experiment, because you'll need to list all the chemicals you'll be using, the quantities you'll be using for each one, and the nature of the reactions that you'll carry out. You'll also be required to provide a week-by-week schedule so that we can be sure that whatever substances you're working with won't prove to be incendiary if they get mixed up with whatever the person next to you on the bench is getting up to. Really, for most of you, this assessment form will be quite straightforward because you're simply not going to be working with anything very dangerous. But for some of you, particularly if you are working with any volatile substances, it could be a bit more complicated. You might have to justify the use of certain substances, or only be allowed to use them on particular days. Now then, after you've filled out your safety assessment form and given a copy to your professor, you will submit it to the laboratory supervisor and he'll review it. This could take a couple of weeks, so do it early. Don't leave it to the last minute. He's a busy man. The laboratory supervisor will eventually make a recommendation to your professor about whether the experiment can go ahead, requires modifications, or may not be done. Next, your professor will either approve the project or not. If your professor does not approve the project due to safety concerns, then you, the student, will be notified and you'll begin the process over again by submitting a new safety assessment form that takes into account those troublesome safety issues. Is everyone with me so far?
I have a question.
Yes, Jamie.
So if we have to wait weeks for the laboratory supervisor to give his approval, and then we have to redo the form, we're going to be quite behind our classmates who got approval on their first go. That's a bit unfair, isn't it? I mean, some people are going to have an advantage of several weeks over other people.
Well, you needn't really worry about getting behind at this stage. After all, you'll have 6 months to work on your final project. And you'll only get a 2-week block of laboratory time anyway, so there's time to wait for the laboratory supervisor, provided you get started promptly and don't leave it all to the last 2 months. Also, don't forget that this is only one step. There are plenty of other steps for other students to get hung up on further down the line. It will all balance out.
But, Laura, what if our projects aren't approved?
Then you'll come up with another one. Don't get too attached to your project in the beginning. Projects get turned down. Let's see, last year I think only 15 projects got approval on their first go.
Out of how many?
Out of about 45, I think. There are less of you this year, but still, be prepared to come up with an alternative project. There are plenty of people to help you if you need ideas, your professor, his RAs, even your fellow students. And don't forget that in the first months of your project, the library will be your second home, and the librarians will be your greatest friends.
Laura, what's an RA?
RA stands for Research Assistant, like Jess over there in the lab coat. Hi, Jess. Now, once your professor has approved your project, you will need to write up a set of experiment safety procedure guidelines. This will include all the practical steps you'll take to keep safe and exactly what you'll do if you have a spill or some such thing.
How will we know all this? We've got no experience in the laboratory.
Well, after your professor approves your project, he'll assign an RA to help you write the experimental safety procedure guidelines. You won't be on your own. Finally, once that's written, you'll give it to the laboratory technician, that's me, for approval. If I approve it, then you can begin your experiment. If there are problems, we'll sit down together and talk about it. Then you and your assigned RA will come up with a way of making your experiment completely safe to conduct. You'll redo the guidelines and give it to me again until it's approved. But the RAs know what they're doing, so I don't expect there will be too many problems. OK? Any questions?
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Pause the recording for 30 seconds.